has been making it a point to make me part of his programs. I feel so happy to be back with Lendi people. To continue with the session, I'm sure in the morning sessions you've got an overview of what you're going to learn for these 3 days. And on top of it, the second session has continued with Professor, who was continuously asking people to participate, to reciprocate, and also be very active listeners to the whole of the session, which is a real training for how communication can be very effective in the process of learning, particularly for students of different, from different backgrounds. Now, I have, before we go on, let me give you 3 different stories or anecdotes, in fact, how our perspectives change. It seems a little girl started going to school in her village, and when she started looking at the way teachers are teaching, she continuously kept thinking, why can't the teachers give us something very practical? And so she decided then itself that she's going to be a teacher who will be immediately telling the students how practically everything that they learn in the class is implementable and reasonably, logically, reasonably good for learning. That is the purpose of learning anything, is being told for the students beforehand. So later she did accomplish her goal. She became a teacher. She came back to the village and she started teaching. But the first thing she adopted is that mathematics is not going to be something which is only on the board in the form of numbers. So she started bringing lots of things into the class, and she started teaching. Now, one day she started teaching numbers and additions to class 1 children who were about 5 to 6 years old. So she gave a chance to one of the boys in the class, and she said, now come on, my dear Ravi, I'm giving you 1 orange to you. I'll add another to it and another to it. Now, how many oranges totally you will have to put in your bag? The boy said 4. Teacher is really upset because she failed in getting the right answer. So she said, Ravi, I'm giving you 1, you put it in the bag, add another, you put it in the bag, add another, you put it in your bag. And finally, how many do you have? He said, it's 4, ma'am. And she's totally upset. She repeated, she gave another. Now she asked her assistant to bring 4 strawberries to the class, and she said, now, Ravi, I'm giving you 1 plus 1 plus 1 strawberries. How many do you have? He gave the right answer, 3. Now, when it comes to oranges, why is it 4 for you? Then he said, sorry, ma'am, I have 1 orange that I brought from home in my bag. So I think I'm the right person. So it's perspectives. From the boy's perspective, his answer is right. From the teacher's perspective, the answer is wrong. It's like, from whose perspective are we trying to understand communication? The second anecdote I would like to give you is about 2 parrots. The talking parrots are very famous. A hunter who got parrots trained them continuously in talking, and he sold them to 2 different people. One is a butcher, and the other is to a family where they practice a lot of pious practices they had at home. So after a couple of days, when the hunter came to these places, he thought, let me see how my parrots are doing in their talking. So he went to the first parrot, who was being sold to the butcher. The minute the parrot saw this hunter, it said, kill him, cut him, put him into pieces and weigh him in cages. He was shell-shocked. He didn't know what to do. Later, he spoke to the butcher and he understood that continuously the input for the parrot has been these words, because that is a butcher's shop. He moved on to the second parrot, which is to a family that has all pious rituals going on every day. And the parrot started singing the praising verses of all the gods, which made the hunter very, very pleasant to listen to. The input, the learning environment makes a lot of difference for using language. And that's what parrots have repeated. Now, we have this word of parakeeting, that is repeating like parrots, whatever they listen to. So that is an important aspect for learning a language and communicating in language. Now, another funny one that all of us must have got to read on social media is about a wedding invitation. The wedding invitation had all the details of the wedding, the place of wedding, and it went very good with all the details that are required. At the end, there is a note. Your presence itself is a gift. Please do not bring any gifts. But the receiver of this particular invitation is left in confusion. Whether we are supposed to attend the wedding, is it an invitation or is it a warning to tell us we shouldn't attend the wedding? What do you understand from this? Should the person who received this invitation go attend the wedding or not go? Now, this is ambiguity in language. Now, sometimes it allows us to really understand people, and most of the times it also leads to lots of misunderstandings. Before we actually lead into understanding communication and what it can do to our lives, let's see what in Crux we are going to learn today. One is, okay, we understand communication and its role and importance. And we'll also look at what can cause some kind of barriers for understanding the other person, what stops us from really taking the other person in a very positive manner, and how else can we make it a positive understanding of the other person. So what are the barriers for communication? How do we overcome these barriers? When I say barriers for communication, it is also like how we become successful in the process of communication and how we also overcome any of the obstacles that we face in the process. I would now like to request all of you to take an active part by getting into menti.com.
Do you require the poll to be launched, ma'am, now or later?
This is not poll, Hari sir.
Yeah,
This is the Mentimeter opinion.
sure, sure.
So I'm pasting the link in the chat box. I'm also giving you the code in the chat box. You can get into what you can type on your you can type on your mobiles. If you're logging in from your mobile, you can say menti.com and then give this code 25758504. So you give this code and you get into the poll. I request all of you to respond to this question. What it means when I say
No problem, no problem. Suvarna ma'am just now has dropped a message. There was a power outage at her end. She'll be joining, she'll be joining. There are some power fluctuations for her. Meanwhile, I request all the participants to take forward your mentee responses. I think if ma'am if ma'am makes it out, it's all right. Otherwise, we'll see what to do with. And kindly, all of you have a little extra patience. And on Mentimeter, menti.com CVC234Z5KP, the link is already there in the chat. Kindly respond to the question asked there. Yes.
No permission. In the meantime, oh my goodness. May I go with a short story?
Yes, yes, you can, you can, you can. Actually, participants are quite engaged on Menti. If at all they are ready, we'll be definitely go forward listening to your story from you, Kavya ma'am.
Sure, sir. We'll wait for
Please.
another 2 minutes and then we
You can, you can, you can.
So, everyone out there, I hope you were engaged with giving the answer for the right process of communication, or what do you exactly mean by communication. Whereas in the morning session, we have learned about how to be a good positive thinker and all. Like, yes, that is really connecting. And regarding that, let me speak for you for a minute or two. And of course, positive thinking, which is always a right, appropriate linking with the communication process to how you take up the other person's perception also matters a lot. Whereas I want to tell you a little story. Maybe many of you have known this, but I just want, in this occasion, the right place where each and every student is with us and they will listening to it appropriately. Whereas, and there was a man with two sons, and those two were twins. Twins in the sense are not identical, complete twins.
Yeah,
And
yeah, ma'am.
yes, sir.
Ma'am is back.
Okay,
Suvarna ma'am is back.
okay. I don't want to take any of time from Suvarnalakshmi ma'am's session. We are waiting for her actually.
I'm sorry, my room is dark, and so this is mobile connection. What I'll do is of my mobile video, and I'll not be able to show my presentation as well because of the same problem. I haven't saved it
Ma'am, I'm
anyway.
sorry for interrupting. If you
Yeah.
mail us the presentation, we'll be sharing it on screen here, ma'am.
Yeah, my I failed connecting my laptop to my mobile hotspot. Today I failed doing this. I don't know why and how.
No problem, ma'am. No problem. This is the right opportunity for us to listen to only Suvarna ma'am.
Okay,
Nothing else to be looking into. So we'll be very happy. We'll listen to you, ma'am.
right. Thank you so much for being so cooperative. Different definitions of communication. I'm not able to see your responses, so I will be giving different definitions of communication. Normally, we say it is between the sender and the receiver, transforming some information. And information transfer is a major kind of definition that we give for communication. Imparting or exchanging of information or news, a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system, a technique for expressing ideas effectively, as in speech, of symbols, signs, or behavior. This is the fourth definition. And the fifth one is it's an art and technique of using words effectively to impart information or ideas. So these are the different definitions that talk about communication, where information is the highlight or a common kind of feature of all the definitions. So we need to understand that communication primarily happens or revolves around information either being given by the sender or received. Between both the sender and the receiver, or one person addressing the whole group or the whole group addressing one person. So it can happen in many ways. And the whole process is like, when I like to communicate something with you, if I want to say, give you some kind of information related to the process of communication, what do I do? I have that message in something to pass on as if I will be, excuse me, please. I compose that message, encode it, that is, put it in the form of a language, then pass it on to the others, whoever is my receiver, either one person or a group of persons, who will respond to me. Then they receive the message I give, start understanding, analyzing what did Suvarna try to say in this particular context. Do I understand what she's saying or not? Kind of details people start understanding. And in the process, they also try to give feedback to the speaker, that is to me, whether they have understood or not. Like we have in some of the chats saying that I'm not audible, I'm not visible, my slide is not audible, kind of ones. Similarly, we have different kinds of feedback coming to the speaker. Based on that, the speaker again responds to the receiver. And so the cycle of communication continues. Now, understanding this cycle, something which we also need to know is, where do we break the cycle? How come what I wanted to say is not received by what is supposed to be received by the audience? One reason might be the process of communication. Now we are now using technology, so break in technology definitely fails us at times. Like we have several things to carry out as information passing. The medium of communication fails us if it is not face to face. The other reasons for failing we'll definitely look at in the later parts of this session. But let's look at, why do we also communicate? Now, why should I talk to you or you talk to somebody, or why should cross a word? One, for people like me, it is human tendency. It's an urge. You can't sit quietly, so you start speaking to people around, friendly relations with others, doing a lot of networking and social. It's the other way around too. We also tend to break relationships because of certain words that we use accidentally or incidentally in the process of communication. Now, we share a lot of information, we give ideas, we also give, express our emotions, our views on certain things. I like this particular presentation. I feel this very boring because it's only audio, there is no video, I can't see the slides, so it's boring. That is expressing the views. I think if this is done in a different way, it would have been more interesting for me. That is expressing the thoughts. It's also the process while teaching, and in the process of teaching language, so it is also process of learning. If you want to consult somebody, your consultation process also goes with language communication, and you also give advice to people. You make a relationship, you help sustain relationship, or you break relationship with language. You also express your ideas. Sometimes communication is need-based. Like there is a social need, so you need to communicate. There is an identity need. I need to tell who I am. So there is an identity need, I communicate. There is a spiritual need. I would like to express my philosophical ideas related to life to others. I would like to share with others, so that there is a spiritual need. I want others to follow. I don't want Ukraine and Russia to fight. I want peace in the world. So my ideology expression is spiritual. So that spiritual need is also there. spiritual does not mean religious. Spiritual is ideological. It means in that sense. And sometimes it is also instrumental in the sense I want to get some work done by others. I want some help from others. So that is also instrumental. I instruct people to do some work, say I have, and that becomes instrumental. But not all communication always is received by the other end very positively. Why does it go positive? Why does it go negative? That is a major question. Now, in the process, many a time we also, when we encode our messages, we tend to lose clarity in our idea. The formation of idea itself is not very clear for us, and so it tends to be unclear for the listeners. And if the listeners are not very interested in what the speaker is speaking, even then there is a break in the whole process. So you're not able to reach the audience, the intended person who is supposed to listen to you, then it is not an effective communication. In the other way around, if I were a listener and I do not have good listening skills, I'll not be able to communicate back. Now, my teacher is teaching me something. Suddenly, my teacher asks me a question. I will not be able to answer that question with listening skills. I didn't listen to my teacher before. So that listening skills are important as part of effective communication. You need to listen very attentively to give appropriate response to the speaker. At the same time, communicate. What does this mean? When I speak something, when I say something, my walk, when I say somebody's communication has to be effective, I cannot true and say, okay, you comes to my mind. And that is why authenticity is something where you believe and you talk the same, you act and talk the same. That is when the image of the person who is speaking will have certain impact on the listeners. And so effective communication happens between the very important norm of effective communication is spontaneity. You are supposed to imitate of communication. So that spontaneity is also important for us to continue our communication. And when you complete communication, end of it, there is an expectation from the expectation is in the form of an action. Then emphasize on that. That will help get the work done on time, and your communication is very effective. And the last one is you will also have to empathize from the listener's point of view. If you were sitting on the other end, in the seat of a listener, will you be able to communicate effectively? Will your communication that is being given by you taken very positively by the listeners? If I were sitting in the chair, will I sleep off the speaker or will I follow the speaker? What the listeners or readers' point of view, imagine in their position. Then I will also check how others, am I boring? Am I giving interesting information? Am I giving relevant information? I check myself clearer to the audience. And while communicating, something you need to remember is communication decides the way you communicate, the way you talk, the vocabulary you use, the body language and the integrity of your body and the speech. We call this as intrapersonal skills. That is, what you speak shouldn't be opposite to what your face or body says. Appreciating something, but actually you don't intend to appreciate anything. The compliment doesn't go very positive. So that is not very good intrapersonal skills. Now you need to have that integrity, and you need to express your ideas with that. So communication decides your character. It decides on what kind of person you are. Can I trust this person when this person says, I'll do this favor for you? Can I trust this person when this person says, don't worry, I'm there for you? And so on. So it decides on the person's personality, character, characteristic, whatever. And it also decides on the way the person's background, that is the culture the person comes from. Others, they tend to hug each other, they tend to kiss each other, they tend to handshake. They also tend to give a namaste like Indian culture. So without touching, we also tend to greet. And what kind of a culture does this person come from? What are the words that are being used as part of? Many a time we listen from youth, many of the words that they use very commonly as cliche terms without any meaning actually. Like the minute they come on and so on. It's only the trend that is used, but do they really mean it as shit and all? Not really. So it also shows what kind of age influence that this person has. So education that ways will refine the language of an individual. When you reflect on what educational background do you have? If you are not a person who is open-minded, who is exposed to different cultures, who is efficient in cross-cultural communication, it also shows your exposure, which means if you're not able to take any culture shock immediately, get on with other people, it means that you're not that you remain silent or you remain different from the pattern of communication. Your home and social environment also, like we were looking at the tends to repeat the environmental cut way and so on. And that kind of home social environment and the kind of people around you also decide on the type of communication you have. Now, if you are a soft-spoken, generally you tend to have more number of people, and you will also tend to have, if not really the similar or same kind of ideas, at least the tendency of the ideology or similar kind of thinking, similar kind of reacting to the situations, those people come around you. And the way you communicate decides on who is around you as well. I have 20 more minutes. Now, the types of communication,
Suvarna ma'am.
Has lots of types. Yes.
Suvarna ma'am. In fact,
Sorry, sir.
can you change the
Am I
direction of
not
your
audible?
gadget? Yeah, yeah. Here and there,
Yeah.
we are missing. In fact, I have left live transcript open. We are missing here and there your voice. In fact, if you can just change the direction of the gadget to improve your network, it is easy for you. Now you can
Okay,
talk,
let
ma'am.
me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me try at another place. I'm not very any place in my room actually gives the same similar or worse.
No, no, it is worse, ma'am.
Okay.
It is worse. It
Yeah,
is earlier better.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I changed and tried, but yeah,
Yeah,
generally the place I sit is the best place
yeah,
for
this is the best place. You can continue, ma'am.
signal.
No, still like we
Okay.
could not make it
Until.
out.
Mhm. What else can I do?
Is it the problem for me alone or any other participant? Would you like to say
I
it?
think it is the same
Same problem,
because
sir. Same problem.
my network is very weak, sir.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can't go out because there will be other distractions.
I know, I
Is
know,
it
I know.
better now?
Yeah,
Slightly.
it's okay, ma'am. It's okay now.
Okay. We'll continue with types of communication. One is oral and written. The spoken type of communication is generally the one which we need. The 21st century communication is totally a world of communication. Previously, as I was telling you, say about 2 decades ago, we don't have communication as part of our regular lives. Like people talking a lot is not an acceptable kind of one. An intellect is always expected to be a silent person. A wise person used to speak very less. But now, the 21st century has become a world of communication. What you know, your knowledge is also known to the rest of the world only when you communicate with others. That became a major aspect or feature of the 21st century people. Now, previously, somebody talks a lot, they're called as chatterbox, they're disapproved by the society. Like you can't spend much time with this person because she chatters a lot. It's a chatterbox. So let's start. Yes. Are you? Yes, I can, Kavya. Audible to you. What can I
Some or
do?
the other point of time, your voice is getting dragged so that we are missing few points in your sentences. So
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to help myself and help you people.
but now it is very clear, ma'am, when you are talking to me.
Okay. I'm just talking about the 21st century tendency of speech and communication. 21st century is the communication age where importance is given to a lot of information is, or who speaks a lot, who is very vocal, is a person who is given a lot of importance. For example, previously, if somebody is a chatterbox, people tend to dismiss this person, be away from the association with this person for a long time. But now you have even ads on the hiring or employment websites would say, if you're a chatterbox, yes, come on, we have a job for you. That is a world we are living in now. So oral communication has taken over any other forms of communication now. We also have social media communication is also going on in a great way today. Of course, in association with the verbal communication, you also have the non-verbal communication. Anything that is oral generally is expected to be verbal. And even when it is verbal, the verbal communication is supposed to be associated with non-verbal. What does this mean? I've already given you an example of intrapersonal skills, intrapersonal communication. Now,
Ma'am, all your voice we lost, ma'am.
Ma'am, we lost complete connectivity with your volume as well as, however, the picture we can't see.
hello, hello. Is it
Yes,
better
ma'am.
now?
We hear you.
Okay. Right. Um, I'm so sorry. Put in such a pathetic state. Okay,
Yeah.
now to continue, non-verbal communication is something which goes with verbal communication, with oral communication. I'll talk about the types of non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication has visual cues, that is, what exactly your eye catches as visual. So the gestures a person makes, the movement the person makes, the facial expression the person makes, that visuals, including the dress of the other person, the ambience of the place in which the communication takes place. All these are visual. Body language, that is your gestures, your movements, the way you speak. The six are also there, that is your eye confidently and speak. Are you looking here and there? Are you not very comfortable maintaining eye contact for a long time? Why and why not? It depends on different cultures and content today to discuss. Something very interesting about this is the nonverbal communication is haptics. This is an important aspect of nonverbal communication. Now, when haptics actually is the human touch, a teacher coming and patting on the shoulder of a student makes a lot of difference. A hug from a friend when met after a long time is also, it means a lot to friends. And say sometimes patting on the hand when somebody is feeling low, giving a strong hold of the hand, saying that I'm there for you. So lots of other gestures that we do with our touching of the other person. It depends on the intimacy. Once again, please remember, not with everybody you can have this liberty of touching. And the gender discrimination is there. So the maintenance of distances, the proxemics that we call as nonverbal, all that has to be definitely followed. However, the haptics actually mean a lot when it comes to emotions and relationships. So please be very careful, but still try and maintain that haptics. Give a touch to other person that gives confidence for them, and it builds good relationships. Moving on to, I actually wanted to have a poll, but I don't think I can succeed in doing it because I'll not be able to see the poll. So how do we overcome? There are some barriers in communication. What are the major barriers in communication? Is something which I wanted to have as poll, but not to worry.
If you want,
The major barrier.
madam, if you want, we can launch it and we'll also show the results to you.
Okay, you can go ahead then.
Yes. Let me just take
What are
1
the
minute. Yeah. I am launching it, ma'am. Already launched. Hope the results would come shortly.
okay? Thank you.
Participants, I request you to attend to a poll that is given by ma'am. The question is like this. I think it's already there on the screen. What are the three major barriers of communication that you have?
అయితే ఇజన్ అవుతుంది ఇజన్ అవుతుంది కదా కండిషన్ ఏదవని అయితే యావరేజ్ ఆఫ్ 1 2 తీసుకొని ఒక 2 కలపడం కానీ 2 తీసివేయడం అవుతుంది.
In fact, people are taking it, ma'am. We'll give 1 more minute time.
Sure.
ఫస్ట్ కాలం 1 అంటే అలాగే పట్టుకోవాలి పట్టుకోవాలి ఇచ్చే బంధం అనేది 90. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఆల్రెడీ కాస్ట్. వై డు యు టేక్ యాబ్సెంట్?
Ma'am, more than 30% have finished the poll.
Okay, so can we stop it so that I can continue?
Yeah, I'm stopping it and
Can
then
you present the results, sir?
that's what. So this is what the results win, ma'am.
Okay,
Around
great. I see most of the people understanding that language is a major barrier, along with distance and noise that become
Ma'am,
barriers. Uh, Distractions are also barriers. Agreed by most of our participants. Attention by the listeners is also one of the main. A study conducted by Harvard University, the 11 options that are given here carried equal kind of importance in becoming a barrier for communication. If the speaker and listener do not have common language, yes, that becomes, for example, all of us speak English, but some is into the interiors of America who speaks at a very great pace will become very difficult for us to follow that English. And sometimes we doubt if we are English teachers, English speakers, and how come we don't understand even so accent and dialect of the person also becomes a barrier for us. And if I am speaking about something that is not known to you at all, that becomes a barrier. So the knowledge and content that I'm speaking about becomes a barrier for my listeners to understand me better. What is this testing today? Hello.
yes, ma'am.
Even when things were so bad, I never had this. Yeah. Knowledge, content, customs, and culture, religion, and practices also sometimes become a barrier. In case I am a person who would like to talk about some ideology that doesn't go well with my audience, then that becomes a barrier. Belief system and thinking also becomes a barrier. Disliking the speaker has equal importance. I don't like the speaker, then I don't comprehend most of what my speaker says. Then distance and noises obstruct listening. It's equal importance. It becomes a barrier. And information, if I want to give a lot of information, dump a lot of information, and of course, distractions. These are the main one. You practice to have clarity in your thinking, organize your ideas in a correct manner that you want to present, and know your audience better and be cautious and of course courteous to your audience. If you are able to put yourself in their shoes, sure you'll be able to do a better job in communication. And of course, as it is already explained to all of you, communication is going to make your careers, is going to make your life better. So it is always better to be conscious and cautious about what you're going to learn and how you're going to speak and handle spoken oral communication situations. Understand your other person, that will help overcome all the barriers and also build very good relationships with your audience. With that, I close. I know I'm very bad with my communication today, particularly because of the technical glitches I had, which are not really expected. And thank you, Kavya. Thank you, and thank you all audience for putting up with this problem.
No, it's not at all a problem, ma'am. What all what all the best that we have heard from you. Hope we have had a right way of communication. Sincerely, I apologize on behalf of you to all the participants about the technical glitch happened. Still, we could enjoy. We enjoyed a lot listening to all your sentences on screen transcribed. So thank you so much for your patience, ma'am. Even if the glitch has arisen and could not really make a right way for you to do things, you have done all the best for us. And before winding up your session, I would now like to ask one or two participants to respond to the talk. Do I get a voice from Smita, Dr. Smita?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good
Very
afternoon,
good.
ma'am. Actually, due to this technical glitch, we couldn't hear it. But then, overcoming all the barriers, whatever thoughts, whatever points you have communicated to us, it was really very amazing, ma'am. Ma'am, do you feel that understanding other person's views are also necessary in communication?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we mean by being open-ended in the process of communication. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, you are. Please go ahead, ma'am. Yes.
That's what we call as being open-minded and taking the perspectives of others into consideration while communicating. That makes us really more empathetic towards the persons, and that will help us overcome the barrier related to the speaker and listener. So it helps build a good relationship. And as we know, generally, we also listen to many people telling this, that it's not all good in a person. There is nothing all bad in a person. Even in Shiv Keda's You Can Win, he gives that. As you delve deep into the earth, you find gold. So definitely you have gold in every person. And that is what we wanted to look at. To build a relationship, even, that is very important. Take the positive aspect of the person, tend to continue with that approach, and you will definitely understand the person better.
Thank you, ma'am. I liked your stories. Right in the beginning, you narrated some stories, anecdotes, and then you were. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, shall we move forward? Kavya ma'am, and if Suvarna ma'am permits, we'll go forward.
Yeah,
Questions
please,
from
please.
this side as well as my side, sir. Two more questions if you allow us.
Excuse me, sir. I am Arsha. I have a doubt how to manage
Yes.
verbal and non-verbal communication.
Okay, something that you check yourself in front of the mirror. What you mean to say, is your body also saying the same or not, is what you need to practice. You need to sit in front of audience of your confidence, in the sense your close friends, your family members, who can give you very open and right kind of feedback. No, your body says something and you mean to say something else. So try and get that integrity. You need to have that intrapersonal skill. What you mean to say, your body also should say the same. If both go together, then trust in the audience is built. Your speaker tends to trust you. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And ma'am, what is the right appropriate skill, approach of a person to control or to bridge the barrier of communication with the other person?
Empathizing is a right strategy. You tend to empathize the other person. If I speak this word, if somebody speaks this language to me, how will I react? So did my friend, or so did my listener. So not a problem. Let us, maybe my language is not good enough to approach the other person. Let me refine it. Let me put it in other words. So that refinement in your talk will allow others to understand you better, and they will be with you. Misunderstandings will reduce as much as possible.
So, ma'am, is it like the golden rule, like treat the others how you want to be treated? So, if we follow that, everything will be set right. Is it that we mean, ma'am?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much. And
Welcome.
the perfect learning from this process, from your session is, ma'am, we can add up saying that the never giving up attitude you have shown, though you doesn't have you don't have the right appropriate network around you. You didn't give up, and the voice clarity, though it is missing, everybody are very keenly listening to your voice. And thank you so much for all the patience and pain you took today to make us understand what is exactly the communication mean and the barriers of communication and usage of communication. It is pretty good, ma'am. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And we love your patience too. Thank you so much, ma'am.
I should appreciate the patience of the audience today. I'm very sorry from my end. I must have found a definite better alternative, which I did not plan for today. Thank you. And I'm leaving the session now. I think it's time we give space for the other speaker to take over. Thank you so much once again. Thanks to all the audience who put up with all the disturbances in my voice. And thanks to all the Lendi team. Bye-bye for now.
Pleasure is ours, ma'am. Thank you so much for being a part of this. So yes, always the online platform has many challenges to go ahead. So as we are going ahead in this way, and the previous session was we have many takeaways from the session, like how to overcome the barriers of communication, the appropriate usage of communication, types of communication, verbal and non-verbal, where non-verbal plays a vital role. The both verbal and non-verbal should match with each other, otherwise it could become, it reaches to other person in a different way. So how to exactly overcome that? Maybe these learnings all will help us a lot. And let's, with no other delay, let's ask Harisa to go for the next session with his permission. Harisa? Okay, maybe Harisa is busy, I believe. So, and all the participants who are with us, thank you so much for all the patience and the keen observation and the appropriate questions related to the session. Is really making the session go on pretty well. And now, again, getting into the part of Suvarna Lakshmi ma'am's words, like integrity of body when speaking to the other person, and whereas coming to the interpersonal skills, which plays the appropriate role in the communication process. These days, the people keep on talking in the appropriate manner, but because of their body language, they seem to be different to the other person. Maybe that acts as a, that makes the other person feel that these persons, the people who are talking to us are not comfortable in any point of time. So maybe avoiding all this only can happen when you have the appropriate body language. And yes, definitely verbal and non-verbal must go hand in hand when you communicate with the others. And so with this, we say that this is all about from the talk of Suvarna Lakshmi Ma'am's session. Let's take a 2-minute break and come back again. And we'll be having one more appropriate person called Benny Sir. He'll be ready with his talk to give you or impart his knowledge to everyone to enlighten us. Thank you so much. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. We want the same patience from all the participants who are there at the meeting right now. Thank you so much. So, Mahati ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are pretty much audible. Yes.
So I hope each and every one, all the participants who are in this session are back to us by taking a little break of 2 minutes. So now we have the another interesting component to listen from Dr. Solomon Benny sir, and I take the privilege of inviting him for this 3-day training program. And whereas we have one of our colleagues, Mahati ma'am, who take up the platform to introducing us regarding our Benny sir's achievements, profile. We want to know about such kind of personalities, right? So Mahati ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kavya ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank Benny sir for accepting our invitation and being with us in time, even before the session ended, the previous session ended, for your punctuality and all. Thank you so much, sir, for your presence.
I'm honored. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
So pleasure to and honor to see you here, sir.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to one and all. Once again, I welcome on behalf of Team English Lendi, all the participants, dignitaries, all the resource persons for all your time and patience. Now we have another resource person, Dr. Solomon Benny sir from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. So without taking much time, I would like to introduce myself and then our beloved Benny sir. I, K. Durga Mahati, Assistant Professor of English, being the privilege to introduce Dr. Solomon Benny sir. Dr. Solomon Benny sir, an Assistant Professor of English, Andhra University, is a scholar with 3 master degrees in zoology, education, and of course English literature. He successfully secured his doctorate in English with academic research in shades of communication skills. He worked as a senior English lecturer, assistant principal, and has also been a core member in admission. Currently, he is the head of Department of English, Andhra University. He has got 5 international and national publications, and he has attended more than 20 seminars and has presented around 12 papers at different seminars. We, the team of English at Lendi, once again thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and being with us. And I'm sure the students are going to get enlightened with all the inputs that you are going to give now. And without any further delay, I hand over the session to Dr. Solomon Benny, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful introduction, which I deem to think that I'm not worthy of it, but still thank you so much for the nice words about me. Because a good start always enhances the other person to do well. So thank you for that platform that you've given me. I want to thank Hari sir for inviting me. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you at this time. With the Lendi team, I think a few of them are my direct students. So it's an opportunity to speak with many participants, and thank you so much for the platform that you have given me. Now, the topic that I was asked to discuss about, I would rather don't say that I want to speak about, discuss about, but discussion always leads to a reasoning. While I speak, I want you to reason out whether it is right or wrong, so that we can have a proper understanding, a serious critical understanding of every point that we discuss. In another maybe 1 hour, because 15 minutes I leave the platform for questions or queries from the participants. So we are almost 320. So mostly I have another 1 hour to do, because it's 4:30. I think that is more than enough. So it's all about global language, English as a global language and its importance. We all know that there are many languages under the sun which are spoken by different people and from different areas. Geographically, we have multiple of languages. We are divided on the basis of languages. We are divided on the basis of our culture. And language
So sorry to interrupt. I think you are on mute, sir.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
There was a call on my phone, so so I'm extremely sorry.
Absolutely.
Now, any language, the language defines our culture, and we know there are multiple of languages under the sun, and each area speaks their own language. Even the same language, we have different dialects, we have different accent, and many things. And the world has a problem because if we go deep, if we go deep into the history, we know the Holy Bible says that there was a Tower of Babel where there was a people wanted to go up and they wanted to create a global arena so that every person would speak the same language and other things, having a better understanding of each other, so that relationships would be better. But the Bible says there was a confusion created by God so that people will not know each other perfectly well. Okay, whatever it might be. As days stole by, we are being exposed to quite number of languages taking birth, and we know English with lot of respect towards English language. Being a teacher of English language, many people won't agree with me, but we are going with a language which is the most impurest language on the face of the earth, because English language has become global because of one important factor is that it can accept. It's open. It's not rigid. It can change. Language should not be static. That is one of the most important characteristic of a language, because it is accepted. It is accepted. People always identify with the language quite easily. One of the most important thing is we know that people who have studied English language uh, at master's level, they know that when we talk about the history of the language, we know that there are many words, there are many jargon, many vocabulary that has come, which has been taken from, which has been borrowed from different languages. Different languages. The original English language or the original English vocabulary in English language is very less in number when compared to the vocabulary that has been borrowed from different languages. Okay, that is not the question of us, but why English language is considered to be the global language. That is the question that we need to answer as we go further in our discussion. Basically, we know that English is not the widely spoken language. Many of us have an impression that English is widely spoken in the world. But let me tell you, it's the Chinese language, Mandarin, which is widely spoken because of the population of the Chinese country. Maybe that is one of the major reasons that that language has become the widely spoken language in the world. But when it comes to why Mandarin is not considered to be the global language, because the people geographically don't speak the Chinese language. The Mandarin language is not spoken by geographically by other people from other countries. But one language that links us, not only a state and a state within a country, and a nation and a nation, is English language. What is global language? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves, and we need to define what a global language is all about. What globalization is all about. We know we are living in a global village. That is what the phrase that is going on in this present scenario, in the world scenario. People say that we are living in a global village. Okay, and when we listen to the word called village, we are apprehensive. But still, uh, global village, globalization, global village. It is not just about language, but every frontiers of living, like economically, social and cultural fabrics of all societies taken into consideration. Okay. And when we talk about social fabrics, social and cultural fabrics, we need to understand language is part of society. We cannot separate language and society because where there is society, there should be a language. It could be the vernacular tongue that you and I use, or a common language that you and I use. Okay? But when it comes to social and cultural fabrics, we need to understand. We need to understand. You and I need to understand that societies are made for better living. So that societies are meant so that we can have a better living. And better living happens because of communication that happens between person and person. And for better living, we need to communicate. Okay, that's what I'm doing now with you. I'm trying to communicate in a language that you understand better. So there should be a common factor which binds us together, and that factor could be language, because without communication, nothing goes ahead. Nothing goes ahead. Okay, so basically, globalization is one which brings all societies in all societies living in different geographical areas as one entity, as one entity. Okay? It impacts all areas of life. Okay? It has created, I mean, globalization has created a smaller world for people to live in, reach out to other. Okay, we are now living in a technology-driven society. Okay, now everything is just a snapshot. Okay, just blink of an eye, you can have everything at your doorstep. Okay, so we it has become so natural that we come to know about everything that is happening at every corner of the world. And we need to have a common language which can communicate to the people who can understand us, and that one we can call it as English language which has come to India, which has gone to nook and corners of the world. And we know the language started to spread. Language has started to spread with, when we seriously look into the history of the language, it started to spread long back, maybe 200, 300 years ago, when the Britishers were trying to colonize different nations, different continents, and try to dominate and try to reign over different countries, different nations, so that they could have their dominance very clear. And that factor has meant them to come to different nations. First, they went to America. We all know that they went to America, and we call it as New England. We know USA was United States of America when it was formed, when it started to be formed. We know that the Britishers went there, and we call America as a New Englanders. And these people went there, and the spread of English language started from there. It spread like a wildfire. People speaking that language, even the Red Indians, the natives of American, were not able to know that language, and that's how English started to go there. That's what we have heard, and that is one way that the Britishers started colonizing even America. And then we know the New Englanders went there, and then they started to become the natives of that particular land, and they started to spread out very seriously, and they've gone to different nations, spreading very fast, and they come to India 200 years back with a serious intention of trade and commerce in the form of East India Company. Now we know they came to India, and India is a very, very confusing country in the area of language, because we have multiple languages in India. Each state does not speak the same language. Even we don't have a national language, but on paper we say that Hindi is our national language. But down the south, many people don't accept Hindi as a state language, okay, as a country language. Okay, we need to understand. We need to understand that many things that we need to understand that is one where the Britishers or the East India Company found it difficult to really communicate with the people so that the things can get to happen. Okay, basically, you had the previous session, and man might have spoken, might have defined what communication is. Communication is meant for to share. A Latin, it has been derived from a Latin word which means communicate, which means to share. We share a lot of things. And English has, I mean, they wanted their English to be learned by the Indian people, which was a difficult proportion for all the people at that point of time because there was no exposure. And slowly they started spreading out English into the Indian soil. And you know, it has become a common language binding state and state so that there was no confusion in the area of language in India. And you know, basically because of that, India started spreading its wings, started spreading its roots into every corner through the language called English. And the other nations also found out that English language is so important. And so there also the language started to spread out. When we come to Australia, we know that it was supposed to be a place or an island which was used to put people as inmates in the prison. So it was European people who were taken to that particular island and they were put there for the punishment in the jails, and then their spoken language was English, and that's how it spread out to Australia, New Zealand, and then different parts of the world. Okay, so there should be a common factor between nation and nation so that we could be connected quite easily, quite easily. So it was about 50 years ago, the global concept was just starting to catch up with people around the world, and globalization was happening, and everything is at the at the doorstep of everyone. Now, true global language was merely a theoretical prediction, which is still diffuse and vague in nature. Okay? Realities have been created. Okay? Realities has been created of a real world language. Okay, and we know that okay, there was an urgent push for everyone to go further in different ways for reaching business goals and other purposes. Mostly, when we talk about connecting a nation and nation, is on the purpose of business frontiers. And business frontiers is one main agenda where people have to be connected so that business happens without any interruption, because business is one of the profound financial transaction between nations around the world, so that there could be commonalities between the nation and nation. Okay? So they needed a common language, and globalization was one of the most important thing. Okay, they thought, why not a Japanese language? Why not a Chinese language? Why not an Indian language that can be called as global language? After a brainstorming sessions, after discussing for a while, they came to an understanding that these languages are dominantly in some specific geographical area, but not spreading out into other geographical areas. And that has made them not to have these other languages as a global language, whereas English has been spread so widely. People are so mad about English language in different areas, different countries, and so they thought that they made a discussion. They have conducted a service after service, and they came to an understanding that most nations have English as a native tongue, and other nations where people were speaking English as a second language. And some languages are always a documented language. English has been a documented language. English as a link language. Okay, English as a library language. English as a language of business. English is a connecting language. And so all these characteristics of English language has got an edge over other languages. We need to understand, when there is an edge over something, people always drift towards it. They would drift towards it, and they would embrace it so that they could benefit out of it. Humans generally always look at the benefit factors. Nothing wrong in it because we are human beings. Okay, that's how they thought that if I want my business to be expanding, okay, and doing well in every nation, I need to know how to communicate myself. I need to know how I can really do well in my work or in my areas of doing this kind of jobs. Okay, and that's how English has become one of the most important language around the world. Okay, uh, see, when we talk about fourth world nations, okay, where English is spoken as a second language, okay, mostly as a second language, they have a different passion towards English language because they think that that passion towards that language will enable them to learn it, and they think that passion towards that language will take them to near heights of life. For some, it might turn out to be a reality. For some, it might not turn out to be a reality. But we need to understand the passion with which they have grown always take them to a certain extent. Now, when we go back to the history of English language, we know that Britishers, when they were leaving India, they always thought that they were the native speakers who spoke English language in Indian schools at that point of time. And before they were leaving India in 1947, okay, they were of the opinion that the native speakers have done a wonderful job, and the native people of India might not carry out that wonderful job. So they were apprehensive about the independence. They were apprehensive about the English language being taught in the schools. But to their dismay, to their dissatisfaction, okay, to their surprise, Indian teachers speaking English were excellent in their presentation, and they were excellent with their grammar, they were excellent in their construction, in their syntax. Whenever they wrote, they were communicating through written part, they were wonderfully well. And they thought that they're better than the native speakers of the language, and that's how Indians always are better ahead because we always follow the British English. Okay, and that is one of the standard English, and that's how because India has second largest population and most of us speak English as a second language. That is also one of the reasons for nations to consider English as a second language. And then I'm sorry, not a second language, as a global language. Now, when we talk about global language, of course, certain countries like USA, Canada, Britain, Ireland, Australia, and parts of Europe, okay, Caribbean countries, South Africa, New Zealand, and many nations which I might not be mentioning have English as the first language, where the language is spoken, the native people speak that language, and they understand the language very well. And when we come down to the Asian part of the world, okay, Asian part of the world, we find that this is the second language in the Asian part of the world. And there was a decision taken by the linguistic people who thought we need to have a common language which can bind nation and nation, okay, which can bind nation and nation. If there is different language spoken, if different languages are spoken, there would be a they would create a lot of confusion because understanding would be a problem, comprehension would be a problem, and that might invite new problems to the nations. And see, when the communication happens between two nations, if they understand it, things would be better. But when you cannot understand the other nation's language, there would be always a problem of interpretation. Okay? And that interpretation should never lead into confusion. And that confusion might lead into a lot of problems for every nation. So this is how English was starting to be used. People started using English as a means of communication in various contexts, such as government, the law, okay, the law, the media, and the educational system. Okay, when we talk from the frontier of educational system, because we are most of us are in the education sector. Let me give you some examples of the education sector. When we talk about English language, it is the language of computer sciences, because Lendi is an engineering college. People who are dealing with the engineering mainstream subjects would always know that the language of computer sciences is English language. Okay? Uh, I have a laptop in front of me, and when I start typing, the British language does not accept British language. See, whatever it might be. But see, I cannot give it a command in my native tongue because it does not accept my commands. Computer works upon the commands that you and I give. So I'm just giving an example. Okay? People from the engineering might not accept me, but still, when we look deep into the language perspective, uh, we need to understand that it is made in such a way that it has to be given a command in English language. As far as my knowledge goes about computers, I'm not a professional computer, so I'm not very sure if I'm talking right or wrong. But when we talk about other areas of learning like uh, engineering subjects, medical sciences, it is the language of the library. It is the language of the library. No doubt we have translated versions of those books into our native tongues, but mostly when the expression by the writer goes, okay, the real expression is not carried out in the translation works exactly in the same way as how the writer has written in the language that he's very proficient with. Okay? Hope you're understanding what I'm trying to convey. Okay? So what happens? The translation works are fine for the people who cannot understand the original works of the writer. But still, the basic command of the language is to be understood, is to be comprehended. We need to comprehend what has been read. Okay, so I said the library language is English. Okay, when it comes to sciences, it's a library language is English. Medical sciences, we have been. You go to a doctor, he speaks his own jargon, medical jargon. Okay? When the medical jargon is spoken, most of us don't understand. Okay, and he tries to explain to us. Okay, and the medical science books are written. Most books are written in English language, and no one has tried to translate them. Okay, we don't find engineering medical books translated. As far as my knowledge goes, I've never seen medical books being translated. So we can call medical sciences as English language as the language of the medical sciences. And when it comes to sciences, chemistry, physics, you name any groups of sciences. Each group has its own texts which are written in English language. Okay? I can take my own illustration. I can tell you about it. My own example. As I was introduced, ma'am said that I was a master's in zoology. Yeah, my first master's was in zoology, the animal sciences. Okay, so we used to go sit in the library to write notes when we were students. Okay, we used to sit there till 11:30 or 12 in the night, and then we used to write down many notes because buying each book was so expensive and we could not afford to do so at that point of time. So we sat in the library and we wrote the notes. Okay, and we tried. I mean, some of my friends who are from the Indian background, they could not find translated words of those textbooks, and they found it very difficult. So some of us who had the background, English medium background, we used to help them out, and they could cope up with writing examinations. Okay? So, uh, and that was one of my personal experience that I went through. In the same fashion, It's the language of culture, as I told you. Culture is one means of, I mean, not language is one means of spreading out your culture. When I talk about my culture with the native tongue, all the native people who already know about my culture would understand it. If probably I want to talk about my culture to the people who doesn't know my native tongue, I cannot tell them what my culture is all about. You get me? You understand? So what I need to do is I need to speak in the language of those people. I need to speak in the language of those people so that they can understand what my culture is. When someone does not know what my culture is, he or she or that people might not appreciate what my culture is, might not understand the seriousness of what my culture is. They might not understand what my traditions are all about because culture and tradition go hand in hand. They're interconnected with each other. So even if, for example, see if you come across American people, if we come across American people, when we speak with them, unless and until you don't know the culture, you and I cannot speak because some words are related with the culture. For example, let me tell you that we have the habit of using the word called nutshell. We all know what the nutshell means. We mean that it is very brief, very brief. We use brief and we also use nutshell. Okay? Most of you might be identifying with what I'm trying to tell you. But the word nutshell in African culture is a blunder. You know, when I say blunder, you need to understand that. A blunder. Okay, once I was speaking with an American and I said a nutshell, and I want to present myself in a nutshell, and he laughed his heart out. Okay, he laughed, and I did not understand. It's long back. Please understand, it's long back. And one of my friends who understood American language, he came to me and said that why did you use the word called nutshell? Because it's a blunder in their culture, and so never use that word. Okay, there are so many words like that. We use the word called madam so frequently. Okay, which should not be used in American culture. It stands for different thing in American culture. Okay, so we need to understand language and culture are interconnected. So, in order to express ourselves to that particular culture, to that particular people in their language, you need to understand their language and their culture so that we can be expressive before that. We can express ourselves before that. Okay. See, uh, many countries speak English as a foreign language. Almost more than 100 countries, including China, Russia, Germany, Spain, Egypt, Brazil, Indonesia, and some other languages for that matter. Okay. But what happened was business and trade and business sector was being hampered in the particular areas of the nations. Okay, academic pursuit was also hampered. Okay, and the technological contact was not there because people cannot speak to each other for extensive work to happen. So they found it difficult to develop. They found it difficult to develop. So this is how there was a hindrance. There was a hindrance for communication to happen. And so people around started pondering upon this issue and thinking widely, extensively, so that they can make a common language to be called as a global language. It's a global language. Okay? And when we look into English language, why English language has been made as global language? There are many numerous things that made English language to be made as a global language. One, okay, I'm going to talk about in point wise. Okay, I'm not very good with the computers, so I did not make any PPT presentation. I will be rather speaking. Okay, I will be rather delivering my lecture. You can call it as a lecture discussion. Okay, so if you want to pen down, if you think it's necessary, you can pen down. I don't insist on it. But if you think I'm speaking something important, you can do that. I leave the volunteer for. Okay. Now there are numerous issues which made English to become part of our lifestyles. Lifestyles. Okay. One, it is internationally communicated language. international communication happens through this language called English, because it is the official language in more than 53 countries. Okay? 53 countries. And more than 400 million people across the globe speak this language. Okay, this is the statistical figures. It may change regularly, but as far as now, this is what the standard statistical figures that we can take into consideration. Okay. Now, global wise, when we think about the number of 400 million people speaking in this language, communicating in this language, when we say communication, see, we mostly speak and write in the language, but we always ignore the other skills of the language, that is listening and reading. Listening and reading. When we learn English language, any language for that matter, we need to be proficient with the four languages of the skill, that is LSRW skills. Listening and understanding, speaking, reading and understanding, and writing. So when we talk about international communication in this language, it means listening happens in this language. When someone speaks in English, other person listens to it, and then he responds to it, he comprehends it, and based on the need, he would respond or he would reciprocate to what is happening at that point of time. Okay. When I give you the figure of 400 million people, okay, you and I can understand the seriousness of the communication in this language. 400 million is not a small number, and we know that people around the globe, given a chance, would love to speak in English language. Let me tell you, every language under the sun is beautiful. Every language. I don't say only English language is very beautiful because I'm teaching English language. Neither Hari sir or other people who are teaching in India also would say that, and other people who are teaching in English language who are the participants here would say that. No doubt, English language is beautiful. So as our native tongues are also very beautiful, are very beautiful. It always, it always, in the, it always depends upon the user who uses that language in a beautiful, outstanding, awesome, and tremendous way that each individual uses it. Okay. So, see, for example, you're listening to me. You might not find it very beautiful, but if you listen to Miss J. Lalita, who is no more, if you listen to her, you'll be tied to your seats to listen to her. She is so beautiful. Okay, one person who I love to listen to is Dr. Harrison. Okay, he uses the language. I'm not speaking this because he's here, but I'm talking in reality. I always love to listen to his way of expression. See, that's what makes the language beautiful. Okay, so this is how international communication, English has become international language because when someone uses it in a very beautiful way, it attracts the listeners. That attracts the listeners. And this one has become an interactive platform, interactive language platform, so that people can communicate with each other, get their things done, and it is the language which was making each one to identify with the language, identify with the language. And so different regions, different nations, different geographical areas, the language is binding together all the people around. And that is one of the main reason that it has become the international language of communication, for communication. And then it has become the language of business. Language of business. Okay. I told you that we always look at language for the trade and commerce purpose as Britishers have come to India, and their main agenda was to establish their business, establish their trade in India. And they found that English is not the language that the people were speaking, but each state has different nation, different language, different language. They found it difficult to communicate with them, and the business was not catching up with people. So what they thought that let's rub upon them our language, rub our language on them. And so they started constituting different committees, And one of the most important particles, necklace, which has brought a great impact into the Indian educational system, where they have said that English be made as one of the compulsory subjects, as one of the optional subjects at the start. And slowly they started making it as a compulsory subject. And so the people started learning English language because they were load of white collar jobs at that point of time. If I want to have a government job, I need to know the English language. So that's how many people were attracted towards that language. We always look at the financial benefits, no doubt, because we are human beings, we always look at the better financial benefits. Okay? So don't get me wrong, I'm not demeaning anyone, but that's how it started to happen. Okay, so that's how the language of business is started. If you want to communicate, if you want to order for something, you need to have a common language, and that is how we started using that. And it has become the language of Hollywood. Okay. All these goods, I'm not really particular about speaking about this, but it is one of the business-centered entertainment platform, which was spreading like wildfire around the world. Okay, like around the world, millions and millions of people, other than the natives of other than the natives of British, other than the natives of English-speaking nations, everywhere this Hollywood was having its foot, and that's where English language was started to catch up with people. Okay? And it has become the prevalent language. Okay, and Hollywood is supposed to be the most world largest movie industry. Okay, much money is being dumped into it, and so they wanted people started to, to get attracted to this Hollywood because it was said to be one of the pioneer, one of the new important languages through which they were picturizing their movies. Okay? And so uh, and most important thing is it has become the language of the internet. It has become the language of the internet. Friends, we cannot. Someone said my voice is not clear. I'm sorry for that. Is my voice not audible? Am I
Sir, it is audible, sir.
audible? Okay. 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 Let me do one thing. Okay. How is it now?
Yes, sir. You're audible. You're audible, sir. You can carry on.
Okay. 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 Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So when we talk about internet, we cannot imagine the present world scenario without internet. Okay, people are saying that days are coming ahead. Our vice chancellor, who is an expert in the computer sciences field, Professor Prasad Reddy sir, the other day when he came to our department, he's saying that now we can get into the internet. That is what the language that he used. Okay, we can get into the internet. How can we get into the internet? Is through the language. Is through the language. That is why the Facebook has changed the name called to Meta. They have renamed themselves as Meta things. We are going into the meta things because we cannot imagine the world today without the internet. For every minute thing, we are taking the help of internet. Business is happening through internet. Learning is happening. The most important thing, learning is happening through internet, and we are so connected with internet. We cannot imagine a day without internet. See, imagine one day the internet connectivity is gone. One day. I'm saying one day, but let me say, even half an hour of the internet connectivity is gone, you are becoming so restless. Restless. And here, when we talk about English as a global language, we need to understand that it is because of the internet which is connecting us, which is connecting nation, which is connecting country. And the language of internet is English. Language of internet is English. So the onus is on everyone to learn English language. Survival has become a big question, a big question, $1 million question. Imagine some people we might come across in every day. People who doesn't know English language, they are being looked down. I don't know why people look down on these people. Okay? Because they can communicate in the native tongue. But people around are trying to look down on them, which I don't appreciate. We don't appreciate. Okay? But still, if they need to grow, if they need to become big, okay, if they need to really spread their wings out, language is mandatory. Okay? Now, internet is something that has become platform for us in such a wide, in a very, very wide, extensive manner. So people have to have connectivity with this. We have information, loads of information on the internet. Any kind of information is just click of a mouse. Okay. And then if you and I don't know the language, then the real problem comes. Learning has become easy. The students are not mindful of listening to the teachers anymore, but they're more into internet. Sometimes I see some students browsing in the classroom and I'm seriously teaching. Okay, I get so agitated. Okay, and I shout at them, I yell at them, and say that no browsing in the classroom. But the habits don't die hard. Okay, they keep on browsing that. They say that we are getting information. I appreciate that, but it should never be done within the classroom hours. Like whatever it might be. And now many people say that if you can't speak English fluently, your social status is completely different. And that is one of the main reasons English has become one of the global, not one of the global, as a global language. It has been identified as a global language because your social status differs. Your social status is completely different from that.
So,
And
sir,
I will tell you that it gives wide range of scope.
Benny sir,
Sure.
uh, shall I ask you to see that the session would be getting completed somewhere around 4:20 like that? Because most of the participants are asking me since they have to start from their campuses over bus and
So
bus might start
then
some.
shall I proceed for 5 minutes so that we can have an interaction
Sure,
and then
sure,
we'll
sure,
listen.
sure,
Is it
sure,
fine,
sure,
sir?
sure,
Sure.
sure. That is fine, sir.
Yeah.
That is fine.
Now it's 4:04, sir. By 4:10, shall I close it, sir?
Sure, 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 sure.
Okay, sir. I understand, sir. I understand. Thank you. Okay, so English language has become so useful. It is so useful for students to look at the became easy. Learning became easy. So if you can learn this language, you have much scope. Okay? There are many career opportunities in front of you. In front of you, you need to put your heart and mind into it. Okay, heart and mind into it. Okay? Career options are multiples. Journalism language, we call it journal English. Okay, it's very good. Now there is RJ. It's a new concepts that are coming up. Radio jockey, okay, anchoring. Okay, I'm not very sure about some words that the people are using now because we are old conventional people who use old conventional language. Okay, we are not into the present world language that people are using, but still, I'd rather say that people are becoming so close to learn this language so fluently that they have every opportunity open for them. Okay? It has become, I mean, it connects state and state in a country like India. Okay? See, we have many documents written. It's a documented language. It's a documentation language. People document any kind of proofs in English language. So let's understand that we need to connect between state and state and nation and nation. And English language has become one of the finest languages to do that. So we call it as a global language. It is a language of tourism nowadays. Okay? We go on tours for different nations, different states. And when we go there, we understand that we don't have a common language there. and English is the only solution that you and I have to speak. So it has become a language of a language of global importance. Global importance. Maybe I have two more points to discuss with you. I'll finish that. We have 10 lines. We have 10 points. I have 10 points. I'm summarizing it just to initiate you to have a better transport, as Hari sir has put, and understand the problem. So English is considered as a global language because of many reasons. One is many non-native English countries have English as a second language. Okay? Though Chinese has the most number of native speakers, English is spoken in different parts of the world. I told you, Mandarin is a language which is widely spoken in various parts of the world, but only the native speakers speak that. But English is spoken in different parts of the world. And I told you, English is derived from Latin, French, and some other European language. So it is connected with all the European languages, and people started learning this English language also quite easily. In India, English is the official language as of now on date. Okay, English is relatively easy language to be the little language that we can learn. Okay, if you ask me which is easy language to learn when it compared to learning English and Telugu, I would rather say English is the easiest language to learn rather than the Telugu language. Okay, to be very precise, English has vast vocabulary, and we can express accurately through that language. Okay? And because of British colonialism, we know that because of that, Britishers have come down to different nations and they have put the English language, they have done the English language to us. Okay? And now people are using English language as a global communication tool. And with all these reasons that I have narrated till now on this thing, I would rather, if you ask my personal opinion, I would rather call English as a global language because of this easiness for everyone to speak in this language. And I said, English can be learned easily. And with that, I would rather conclude my discussion and I leave the platform to Mahanti ma'am.
So thank you so much, sir. I myself personally have thoroughly enjoyed your session, listening to all your inputs, right? Starting right from the history, you have pointed out how English emerged in each country, right? From India, Australia, everything, how globalization have started, how English stood as a global language. Thank you so much, sir. The efforts were in such a way that you have made it easy for the participants to understand to the core of it. And once again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you, sir, for all your efforts, patience, and time. And over to Hari, sir.
Yeah, that's great hearing from Benny sir and Mahati ma'am. Both of you are very good friends of mine, and who have made a wonderful attempt. Benny sir, it is not to appreciate on the face of you. You have brought in the history of the whole English language, how it has become the link language or a communicative language for the world. Really, the points that you have covered were quite magical, sir, which have brought in a lot of effort. It can be felt how effortlessly that you have presented the effort of making English language as global language. So before
it's an honor.
Yeah, before going forward to wind up the session, one or two questions, if at all anybody from the participant side would like to ask, sir, the floor is open for you. And after that, we would also have an attendance poll, and after that, we'll also leave an assignment link for today. Can anyone? Okay. I think everybody is in rush, and anything that you would like to write down in WhatsApp group, definitely I'll forward it to Benny sir, and he will be definitely kind enough in addressing them back. So now the attendance poll. After taking this poll, I request Kavya ma'am or Mahati ma'am to leave the assignment link assignment number 1 link. That will start by 5 o'clock in the evening, and it is open until next day, 12 o'clock. Yeah, definitely. RS Kiran sir, we will be leaving that PowerPoint presentation in the WhatsApp group too. In the WhatsApp group, we also had the what you call assignment link too. So another 1 minute, we'll be winding up the session. Anybody else from the participants would also like to leave any of the self-reflection from your side? You're open, and we request you to be giving your self-reflection on WhatsApp group or here tomorrow in the morning. Please do it. Yes, I am ending the poll, and now we would like to take the session forward by saying an end note today. Do we have the assignment link 1 in chat box?
In another 2 minutes, it will be dropped.
Okay. I have been trying to drop it. Yes, I dropped it, ma'am, right now. This is the link for assignment 1. It will be activated by 5 o'clock in the evening, and it is open until evening 5 tomorrow. And with this, I'll be feeling happy to end up, or each one of you leave the meeting. I'll be the last fellow to end up the meeting. Thank you very much, sir, once again, Solomon Benny sir, for your time, energy, and then all love and grace towards us. Thank you, Dr. Smita, who has come and joined with us, Swati Patil, Satya Sri, Dr. Sujata Rani, we have Pujita, we have Rama Rao, we have RS Kiran, and there are many other serious and perfect participants since morning who have been putting a lot of effort. Really, I appreciate the spirit that is delivered by Team English at Lendi, who has been putting a lot of effort in bringing out this one very well. Last but not the least, I really appreciate Rajiv Gandhi National Institute, which has strongly believed in us to carry out this kind of a session, which has come now true, which has been putting good effort. Only 30% of the program is now completed. I request all the participants to carry out the other 2 days with the same spirit, and I request all of you to finish the requirements like assignment and also attending 80%. And we have got Rupali Patil, we have got SB Chowdhury, we have Tanuja. These who have put in a lot of good effort, and thank you for all the support rendered. Neelima ma'am, Viswam sir was very much excited in asking you to talk back to him. We have got all the staff from Polytechnic College of Solapur. Yes, we have Kailash Pardeshi, Pravalika, Thank you, Swati Patil ma'am. Dhanyeswar Jadhav sir.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be meeting ma'am tomorrow. We have got couple of
Sure, sir, sure.
yeah, we have couple of interesting sessions. We have Kiran, Kiran sir would like to talk much about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sir.
And with this, I'll take opportunity to end up the meeting for today.